I don't get to watch NXT live. I don't get to watch a lot of wrestling live because of my job. I'm a hard worker, put in a lot of work, and put in a lot of effort. But anytime I get an opportunity to watch a wrestling show live, like I did tonight with NXT Takeover Toronto, I always cherish it. Tonight, NXT Takeover took one more step in its evolution to change the industry. This is your official NXT Takeover Toronto review by yours truly, the RKJ Man. There's a lot of questions I have about this show and honestly the future of NXT. I've been talking about the AEW situation all summer long. Honestly, I've been talking about it since January when they first started with the fact that AEW was going to influence the whole entire wrestling industry, and it has. It continues to do it. A lot of people are saying that we're going to get a wrestling boom come October, and I agree with them. NXT, according to reports, is scheduled to move to Fox Sports 1, 8 to 10 p.m. on Wednesday nights to compete directly with TNT and AEW. This is going to be very interesting. So I was looking at this show tonight to see if we can get a glimpse as to what's going to happen. Will there be some type of announcement, or will the plans show us with the booking how things are going to be for NXT as we get towards the fall? We may have some answers. NXT TakeOver was very, very interesting tonight. I have to admit, though, I did see some seats in the upper deck that were empty. So I'm not sure. You heard reports about there being an issue with the seat situation, and maybe tickets weren't selling as fast for TakeOver and Raw and SmackDown and whatnot. So I'm not sure. It could have been a situation where scalpers took them all, and maybe people just weren't willing to pay those crazy prices on the secondary market. We've heard that issue with AEW lately. But either way, the show was a very good show, and I had a fun time watching it. I always have a good time watching NXT. And excuse me, I have some notes on my phone, so I'm just going to go look over it. The first matchup tonight was the Street Profits taking on the Undisputed Era. Well, let me actually back. We started off the show with Slipknot and them doing their entrance and their theme song music for the show. And it was fantastic. Loved it. And we had a sick promo package. And then we got my homies, the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. And if you hear me talk about Montez Ford on the Ring Generals or the Street Profits in general, I think they're the next big stars. At first, I didn't like them because I thought it was cultural appropriation based off Crime Time. But the more and more I see them, the more and more I realize how cool these guys are. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins are the next big things in the tag team division if Vince McMahon and them lets them be the next big thing in the tag team division. And then, of course, you've got freaking the Undisputed Era. And let's not forget what Adam Cole said earlier this year. Actually, later on last year, when he said that in 2019, the Undisputed Era would be dripping in gold. And this matchup was fantastic for the most part. It started off a little sloppy at first, in my opinion. Saw some botches, but the match just picked up. There were some great spots. I know people pop for Montez Ford doing the Rock move. I said on Twitter, Montez, just be Montez. Don't be the Rock. You know what I'm saying? But overall, I think it was a fantastic matchup. You had great move sets by the Street Profits. And what I like about the Street Profits right now is that they can change direction. So one moment they can be funny and, we can all laugh and joke around, but the next moment they can be serious. And Angelo Dawkins is clearly the power of that group. You have something special going on with the Street Profits, and I really hope they don't try to hotshot Montez Ford to superstardom too early. Just let them roll for a few years. Let them see how this rolls, and then after that, if it ain't working anymore, one of them can turn heel. Most likely Angelo Dawkins. But overall, it was a solid matchup. I had a great time watching this matchup. It was solid. Pinning combinations were great. Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, they're sick. They're a fantastic combination. And the Undisputed Era comes up short. By the way, shout outs to one moment in the matchup where Montez Ford is actually in some type of pinning situation, either a pinning or a submission situation, and Angelo Dawkins breaks it up. I think he just grabs one, either Kyle O'Reilly or Bobby Fish, grabs him, just puts him on there and breaks up the hold. So it was a fantastic matchup, and the Street Profits celebrate with the red cup in their hands. Let me look. The second matchup here tonight was Io Shirai versus Candice Wrestling. I like Io Shirai's new heel turn. I think it's been phenomenal. And I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. I just don't want her to go up to the main roster. The Japanese women, honestly, the Japanese women and the men have been so misutilized and mistreated in the WWE on the main roster that is pathetic. So Io Shirai, just stay in NXT for a while until Triple H takes over. That's my opinion. That's my advice to you guys. And I think Io Shirai did a phenomenal job tonight against Candice Wrestling. These two put on a great match. This matchup started off slow. A lot of ring work was being told here. And there were some sloppy parts in this matchup too that didn't look as clean. But it definitely wasn't the worst matchup of the night, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. But Io Shirai gets Candice Wrestling in a 6 submission at the very end of this matchup. And Candice did not tap, which is something that they can utilize going into NXT TV in a couple of weeks. She didn't tap out. The referee had to end the matchup in order to take care of Candice's safety. So I think it was a solid matchup. It was very interesting to watch this matchup and see just the facial expressions for Io Shirai, because obviously, there's a language barrier there. It's nothing bad, it's not saying anything bad against her, but one thing I love, if you have an issue with your English, your facial expression says it all, because the face and the nonverbal communication is how you talk in that case. It's how you communicate to the world. And Io Shirai, even after she won the matchup, how she's doing this and, mimicking the crowd and kind of playing off the fact that, yeah, I may not have the best English, but I still know what I'm doing. And she truly is the genius of the sky. She even tried a 619. So if you want to see a solid women's match, I highly recommend you watch that. And Candice Wrestling, she ain't no joke either. We've seen her with Joey Ryan previously on the independent scene. She's been in bar wrestling before she came up to NXT. So shout outs to Candice Wrestling. She doesn't live too far away from here too. So I'm very happy that Candice Wrestling and Johnny Gargano are both doing their things in NXT. The third matchup, let's see. Oh, so we have an issue here with Killian Dane and Matt Riddle, bro. All right. I think Matt Riddle is a great competitor. And I like him a lot. But my biggest issue with Matt Riddle is those damn slips or whatever. I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know if he did it in MMA. So some of you guys can tell me if he did it in MMA. But him just flipping up and just the slips come off, I don't know. It's just something about that I don't like. That's the only thing about him that I did not like. But he comes out, challenges Killian Dane, they get into it. I mean, they get brutalized. I mean, they're fighting, they're rough and tough with each other. Yeah, they're stiffing each other, they're hitting each other all over the place. And then they start doing moves at the entranceway. And Killian Dane and them start bumping up against the entrance screen. So it becomes a situation where it gets to the point so bad where both guys just go through a table. And that's how it ends. And the referees are trying to stop him. It's chaos and everything's going on. And I like that about it, because I was wondering where Matt Riddle was going to be tonight. Because if you're top superstar who potentially could be on the front lines in October against AEW and Matt Riddle is not there, then what's going on here? A lot of people were speculating that maybe he could have been getting punished because of his tweets against Goldberg, and talking about Booker T and Chris Jericho and the fact he's getting into it. I don't know. But I was definitely worried that I wasn't going to see him tonight. So the fact that we got to see him tonight, the fact that him and Killian got into some type of issue is great, and I think it's going to help them going into NXT TV in a couple weeks. My biggest problem is I think Matt Riddle needs to be doing big things soon, and I'm going to tip it off in a couple of more matches coming up next. The next matchup was the Velveteen Dream taking on Roderick Strong. Excuse me. Sorry, Roderick. Roderick Strong, and also he's going to be taking on Pete Dunne. So it's a triple threat matchup. Pete Dunne kind of came out of nowhere. I thought it was Roderick Strong versus Velveteen, and I'm not sure if they wanted to add an extra layer to this match or find a way maybe to Roderick Strong not to look as bad. But I was a little surprised when Pete Dunne just showed out of nowhere on NXT TV not too long ago. But shout outs to the Velveteen Dream. So there's this wrestler apparently that I didn't know about, but my brother had to clue me in. He's called the Mountie. From Toronto, he's from Canada, and the Velveteen did a spoof of his entrance and kind of did a spoof in character, because the Velveteen, he's kind of like the Shawn Michaels of the takeovers, right? He's Mr. Takeover, in my opinion. He always has the big entrances, he has the big themes, he has the elaborate outfits, he has the best matches. So he did a spoof of the Mountie. Had the Toronto Raptors. Of course, everybody was talking about the Toronto Raptors. They just won the NBA championship, even though they no longer have Kawhi Leonard. It was pretty cool. And it's always great when Velveteen Dream shines. So this matchup started off slow. I didn't like it. I tweeted at first I wasn't liking it, but it got better towards the end. My favorite part of the matchup, though, was Velveteen Dream literally stopping the referee's hand from counting 3 at one point or another when Pete Dunne had an opportunity to win the NXT North American title. It was phenomenal, and I had a great time watching this matchup because I think all 3 of these guys are the top superstars in NXT. And the one thing that I really like about NXT right now is the fact that they put a really big emphasis on their mid-card division. And maybe that's one thing I'm a little concerned about with 2 hours. I'm concerned about oversaturation maybe. But, when you have a mid-card as strong as Velveteen Dream, Johnny Gargano can slip down. You got Bobby Fish. Sometimes it can go down. Or Kyle O'Reilly. You got Roderick Strong, Pete Dunne. Let's see. You got Damian Priest, and you got other people to name. Keith Lee, Bask in His Glory. You got all these dudes down there who can just straight up go in that mid-card division for that North American title. So really, there's a list of people that Velveteen Dream can face in the next couple of months to defend his NXT championship. So I'm really happy about that. And that's something you don't see on the main roster, and that's one of our biggest complaints over the years is that we don't see the importance put on the mid-card titles in the main roster like NXT. So I hope they fix that. But shout outs to Velveteen Dream tonight because that was a very solid matchup. He wins. He further stakes his claim as one of the best North American title champions in history, in its short history. And like I said not too long ago, I think this championship run is kind of a prelude to something bigger for what he can be doing in NXT or the main roster. So I was very happy to see that. But one thing I wanted to note is that the Undisputed Era were now 0-2. So that's something that we should look at. And I mentioned that so far, it's looking like this might be one of those nights where all the champions would actually retain. So this is something that was very interesting. So moving on, we had didn't have the best match in the world. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this matchup because the main event was so fantastic and I have so many questions after the main event. So I'd much rather focus on that. And I want to keep this review as short as possible for y'all. Mia Yim versus Shayna Baszler did not match. The matchup was not very good. It was a styles clash from the beginning. Awkward spots. Mia Yim is supposed to be a face, but yet she's acting like a heel, confusing the crowd. The crowd was very dead. I just don't think that the NXT women's division is as good as it used to be. Their main roster has been gutted. And I was talking to one of the members of the Ring Generals, Nick, and we were talking, and I was telling him about Sasha Banks. And, Sasha Banks has been gone for a really long time now. She's been gone since April. She just changed her hair, and people are speculating she's going to show up tomorrow to help Bayley or what's going to happen in the future. And I said she needs to come up before Fox. But if she's not going to come up to the main roster, or she's not comfortable, then why not send Sasha Banks to NXT? If you have a situation going on right now where NXT is supposed to be on the front lines, and I'm saying that they're going to be on the front lines against AEW come October, right? On FS1. And they're saying that they want to bring some main roster talent to help boost those ratings. Then why not put a Sasha Banks up against the Shayna Baszler? I can see a great matchup between Sasha Banks and Mia Yim. Two styles that are different. Two ladies who have a lot of sassiness to them. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. They have some sass and they have fire to them. And I would absolutely love for them to face each other. But the division, if Shayna Baszler didn't have an opponent, then I would have rather her not have a match. Because having Mia Yim versus Shayna Baszler tonight just didn't do it for me. And everybody across Twitter was saying this. It's universally known that this matchup sucked. And I don't know. I haven't seen really too many Mia Yim's matches. I've seen multiple Shayna Baszler matches. And I know she can have a great matchup. She's had great matchups with Io Shirai, obviously. And she's had great matchups with Kairi Sane. But Mia Yim just didn't do it. And I don't know why. But for her to knock out Shayna Baszler's buddies, who were so influential in her keeping the title and her regaining the championship multiple times, doesn't help her win the title, then what the hell's the point? And where are we going here with Shayna Baszler? I said that she needs to go to the main roster. If Ronda Rousey is out right now because she wants to start a family, then Shayna Baszler needs to step in and be that next big feud for Becky Lynch. It writes itself. Shayna Baszler is the friend of Ronda Rousey. They've known each other for years. They're a part of the Four Horsewomen. And you have Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler in a feud, in a big-time feud. Maybe that can be a WrestleMania feud for next year. But the biggest problem that I'm having right now, and the biggest issue that I'm having as I'm trying to unlock my phone, guys, excuse me, is that the NXT Women's Division is so dense that we just got to pick somebody out of nowhere. And I never thought that Bianca Belair had a chance against Shayna Baszler. I never thought Mia Yim had a chance against Shayna Baszler. Those competitors just don't have the it factor to me to beat a Shayna Baszler. And at this point, I'm wondering if Shayna Baszler is just going to be like Asuka. Never lose, just give her title away, and just go to the main roster. Or like a Paige. Maybe that's what it should be. Because there's nobody else who's going to be there who can help take the mantle, from Shayna Baszler. I don't know. You let me know what you guys think in the comments. The final match of the night, the main event, Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, baby, in a 3 stages of hell match. 2 out of 3 falls match, basically. The first matchup was a normal match chosen by the champion, Adam Cole. Very simple match. Not a lot to go over until the end, when Adam Cole gets a steel chair and he's going to use it, kicks Johnny Gargano in the nuts, of course. Dirtiest player in the game, Ric Flair, used to do it all the time. Goes to the pin, and Gargano kicks out. But Gargano ends up grabbing the chair, and the referee's telling him, I'm going to disqualify you. And we're all wondering, why is he grabbing this chair? And he starts destroying Adam Cole. And he loses the first fall. But it's smart, because the second fall is the fall that Gargano picked. It was a street fight. Good Lord. These guys fought all over the ring. It was reminiscent of NXT New Orleans last year, when it was Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa in that epic street fight. And these guys fought all over the arena. And then they came back in, and Gargano was able to hit Adam Cole with his submission and tapped out the champion. So now it's 1 fall to 1 fall. And then a steel cage lowers. But not any normal steel cage. It's got barbed wire on the top. Now, if any of you guys remember way back in the day, there was a steel cage matchup in 2005 between JBL and The Big Show. It was barbed wire, though. And that matchup ended up being kind of a disappointment, but JBL ended up barely escaping through the ring. This matchup was more than that. It was more than that ECW crappy match at December to Dismember with the Elimination Chamber with all those weapons. It was a steel cage with barbed wire on the top, and you had various weapons. You had kendo sticks. You had sledgehammers. You had steel chairs. You had whatever you can think of. They had it going in this matchup, and it was crazy. It was something I've never seen before. And they reinvented the steel cage matchup, which is always great to see NXT coming up with fresh ideas that we don't normally see on the main roster. And this matchup was brutal. It was one of the most brutal matchups I've ever seen. At one point, and at the end of the match, I'm just going to skip to the end of the match. I want to keep this short for y'all, but Johnny Gargano gets all the way up to the top, cuts off a barbed wire, and is trying to hit Adam Cole with it, but Adam Cole gets off. And then they go up to the steel cage together, and Adam Cole's trying to escape, but he can't escape. And they both fall on the table. But Adam Cole just rolls over, puts his shoulder over Johnny Gargano, and wins the 2 out of 3 falls match. In one of the most brutal matchups I've ever seen. The announcers were talking about how the matchup needed to stop. Nigel McGuinness, Beth Phoenix, Mauro Ranallo, how this was just too much, how these guys were going too far. The brutality was too fierce. You had ECW chants. You had CM Punk chants because everybody wants to talk about CM Punk right now. But this matchup was fantastic. And what happens now is that Johnny Gargano cannot have any more stake to the NXT Championship. These guys need to be separated from each other from the time being because 3 matches is fine, but definitively Adam Cole came out the winner of this feud. So where does that leave Johnny Gargano? Some people are saying that tonight, this could have been, quote-unquote, his swan song, to quote, I guess, no DQ. And that apparently Johnny Gargano is going up to the main roster. I don't believe that. I don't believe Johnny Gargano should go to the main roster. I think he should stay in NXT for his whole entire career. That is where he's going to succeed. Because he won't succeed in the main roster. I saw him come up in the main roster with Tommaso Ciampa, and they were the 2 guys I was the most concerned about. Because they didn't get crowd reactions. And then you got speculation about Adam Cole and Shayna Baszler. Right now, I think NXT should not be messed with. And here's the reason why I don't think NXT should be messed with. Why would you gut NXT before you put them on a major network to compete against somebody who possibly could be your biggest competition in AEW? Why would you take away an Adam Cole, a Matt Riddle, a Velveteen Dream, a Street Profits? You want to have as much talent as possible. And then if there's some main roster people that you can add in occasionally who can boost up the credibility of these guys and the NXT brand in general, yeah, then you add them. But I have some questions about tonight, about Adam Cole's future as the champion. Who's his next challenger? Is it Matt Riddle? Does Velveteen Dream step up as a North American champion, try to take over? I think there's money in a Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole NXT Championship match, not at a takeover, but on TV. That's something you want to do. That's the main event that I will watch. Look out for that. And then my biggest question is this. Where are we going here with NXT? Is it going to be 1 hour? Is it going to be 2 hours? Are we just going to tape the show? I think there's a lot of questions that I have. And I watched the show trying to see not only what they're doing for tonight, I'm trying to see what they're doing for the future. Because right now, it seems like there's a lot of things in flux with the WWE and NXT. And you've heard reports about Vince McMahon wanting to take over NXT even more. Because he wants to make sure that they have the best product possible going to FS1. If they go to FS1. I think Triple H needs to stay in charge. But tonight was definitely a step in the right direction for NXT. Was it the best takeover I've seen? No. I've seen a lot better takeovers. Takeover in Brooklyn, the first one, or 1 or 2, phenomenal, especially one with the Sasha Banks-Bayley matchup. Takeover New Orleans last year, that North American ladder match, still could have been match of the year. In my opinion, it was the match of the weekend, and that had WrestleMania that weekend. But this show was solid in general. I enjoyed it. I think it was great. But I definitely think there were some parts maybe where the crowd wasn't into it as much. And also, I'm a little concerned because NXT didn't have a sellout. We've seen in Brooklyn, they've had sellouts. You can't even buy it if you wanted to. And if you try to buy a ticket, the ticket would be double the price value of the original market. But tonight, there looked like there were some seats that were definitely empty in that hard camera side. So that's something I'm a little worried about. But overall, I thought NXT was a solid show. And I definitely think NXT is the best brand in the WWE out of Raw and SmackDown by far. And if you want to take them against AEW, you probably can beat AEW if you just book these guys right and if you don't mess with the formula that got NXT to where it is today. Don't be having a whole bunch of main roster people come in and just burying these talents. Don't be having Roman Reigns up there every week just because we're scared of what AEW could become. Let NXT do it by themselves. Let them keep doing what they can do and then add certain things. Then you can put a Sasha Banks on there who's just run with her job and put her on the main roster and have success. But this is a Takeover Toronto video. And this is the RKJ Man. And I just wanted to say, if you like what we're doing, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications, like the video, and comment. Did you like tonight's show? What was your favorite and worst matchup? What was your most favorite matchup tonight? As I can't talk, excuse me. What was your most favorite matchup of the night? And what was the match that you hated the most? And also tell me, what's the future of NXT? Do you want them to be 2 hours? Do you want them to compete against AEW? Or do you want it to just stay in the network and just get out of it and get out of its own way? Tell me what you think about it in the comments. Like, subscribe. But as always, raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.